Hi, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here for another PB&J card class. And today is actually the fourth video in a series of four featuring Penny Black's creative die, Happy Snowy. And I just love this snowman die so much that I created four cards with him. And today we'll be creating the final card. This is the one that has the snowman hugs here. And here's a closer look at that card that we'll be creating today. And I just love all of the different things that you can do with this die, so we will go ahead and get started making this card. Before we begin though, I do want to mention I will have a full supply list at the end of this video that will include all of the dies, stamps, inks, papers, everything that I'm using. So if you just hit pause when that comes up on screen, you can take a look at that closer. Now here's a look at that die that I love so much, Happy Snowy. It comes with the snowman body, a bow, a hat, his nose, a bird, and also a little sign that hangs around his neck. And I will be combining him today with the little mittens from our winter wardrobe creative die set, and also the trees from our Beneath the Birches creative die set. So this card really features an entire scene designed using creative dies, and there's just so much dimension and life by creating this way. So to begin, I have die cut all of my elements from Canson 140-pound watercolor paper, and I'm going to be painting them in using Distress Ink reinkers used as watercolors. I am using the Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station tool here to hold all of my die cut pieces in place while I paint them. So I just stuck them to some painter's tape, and then this is a magnetic tool, so those little magnets will hold everything in place on top of my scratch paper. Now there's lots of other things that you can do with this Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station tool. So I'm going to put a link to a video down in the description box below of her actually talking about all those other things. So if this is something you're interested in, you can check it out in more detail. But man, I just loved using it to do this type of painting of all these little die cut pieces. It made it so easy to do and much more enjoyable than trying to hold them down or hold on to the tape while I was painting them. So to begin, I'm just adding a touch of the Weathered Wood Distress Reinker to the snowman's eyes and a little bit to his mouth, just to accentuate those tiny die cut slits that are part of the die. And I'm blending most of that out with water, and then I'm adding a little bit of blush to his cheeks using the sponge sugar color. Now again, all of the exact colors are listed in that supply list up on screen at the very end of the video. And I just kind of keep going back here and blending that out with water, so it's just very light and very subtle. Now something that's really fun about this creative die set is how you can mix and match the snowman with other elements, other dies that you may already have in your stash. So like these trees are some birch trees I use on tons of cards, usually more elegant cards, but I found they really worked well with this cute image, sort of like he's peeking out in the forest. Maybe he's up to a little mischief. And I'm just adding a touch of shading to these just so they don't look stark white, and this just makes them look a little more finished in the final design. Kind of concentrating the shading onto the left side of the trees and the branches, which is really not a big deal with this style of card that you worry too much about a light source and where exactly the shadows are. Now there's just a look at the palette that I'm using with those Distress Ink reinkers on there. I'm just adding a little bit more here of a pink that I can use to paint the hat. Now this is a less traditional Christmas color, so you could definitely go more red or more green with your design. I also think this die would be great to use for winter birthdays. So it's not so Christmas specific, but you could do it for winter birthdays. Little snowman's hand up in the air could have a little cupcake or a little happy birthday sign. And then these are the mittens. And now the hat comes with the Happy Snowy die set, but the mittens are part of the Winter Wardrobe Creative die set. And again, all those are listed in the supply list. I'm adding just a little bit more shading here onto these pieces, mostly just getting some variation in color. So with the pink, adding a little bit of red in there for some darkness. This also helps differentiate on those mittens, one mitten from the other, just by making that one a little bit darker and this one here in the foreground a little bit lighter, especially where they sort of touch or overlap. Now, I enjoy painting these with watercolors or the Distress Ink Reinkers used as watercolors. You could also cut them from colored cardstock. You can paint them with markers. Whatever is your favorite way to paint or color, you can use that. Or you, like I said, you can just cut them from colored cardstock as well. So I'm just grabbing here his little nose. Again, that's part of the Happy Snowy die set. And I know he looks so goofy without his nose and without his hat, but once you get those on there, then he really comes to life and you just get that happy look to him. And I really recommend if you typically make more elegant cards for Christmas, I recommend giving something like this a try, getting something a little bit more on the cute side for your cards, or just to make a few cards or tags or cards for kids, because it's such a light-hearted, happy feeling when you are working on cards like this, when everything's coming together and you're gluing it all together. It just really is fun to work with such a happy image um, while you're crafting. So I did there go back and add a little bit of brown to those trees, and then I'm going to use that here on the mittens. You can see I did dry that before I add that so it doesn't blend down into the mitten area. And using the station tool with the magnets, it's really easy to use your heat tool right on top without everything blowing away. I'm just going to adhere or assemble some of these parts here while everything is nice and still on the tape and with the magnets, adding his nose here with just a little dot of glue. And then I will add the hat up at top, just up at the top, just with a little more glue. And there you can see the full cuteness coming to life there. And I'm actually just going to put one of those magnets right on top so that stays still and dries right where I want it to dry. Now these mittens can hang right over his little arm. And again, it's that shape of this die with those arms up in the air that really, again, make it so versatile. So many different ways you can design and use it. If you've watched all 4 of the videos with this Happy Snowy, I would love to know which card is your favorite or which accessories are your favorite. So just leave a comment down in the comment section below. I'd love to read and find out which ones you have enjoyed the most. Now I'm just getting ready here to start assembling this more. I slid that hat out just a little bit, but thank goodness liquid glue always gives you a little bit of time to get it back where you want it to be. Now I'll just set all that aside to dry, and I will work on my background. Now this is cut from Canson 140-pound watercolor paper. This is a standard A2 size card, so 4¼ by 5½ inches. And I again am using the Distress Ink Reinkers used as watercolors to paint the sky. Now I'm not worried about the very bottom part of the card because I do have a little snowbank that I have hand trimmed that will be going down there. So I am just putting down the color and then blending it out with water. It's darker down towards the bottom of the card and lighter as it moves up towards the top. And I am mixing in a little bit of green just to give this more of a turquoise feel. If you like more traditional colors, again, if you did like red for the snowman's hat, this sky I think would look beautiful in a very dark blue, and you could splatter some snow on there or do some snow with a white gel pen and have a much more traditional looking card, but using all of the same techniques and the same products and dyes. So I'm just checking there that at Snowbank that I hand trimmed to make sure I painted everything down low enough. And I went ahead and dried that with my heat gun. I'm adhering that Snowbank using dimensional foam adhesive behind it. And you'll see the snowman has a foam adhesive on the top, and then the bottom is just liquid glue. And I'm just kind of playing around here with the placement. And I've got those birch trees with some foam squares trimmed down real small up at the top, and then liquid glue down at the bottom. And you can see I did kind of play around with him being sort of in front of the tree over on the left and sort of behind the tree over here on the right. That's just a little subtle thing, but can give the card just a little more interest and movement and dimension. And then we'll add another tree over here on the right hand side. Same thing, it has some foam squares up at the top, and I'll just put liquid glue down at the bottom. Now I decided to kind of tuck those bottom pieces into another snowbank. So I just hand trimmed this again, just using regular old scissors and the Canson 140-pound watercolor paper. I'm adding a very light layer of the blues and greens that were used up in the sky, just along the top of that snowbank to give it a shadow, sort of a shadow effect. And then I will adhere that down on the card. But I did have the snowman himself actually popping out over that. So again, giving a little bit more movement. Now the sentiment for this, which is a perfect match for this die cut, is from our Marry Up transparent set. And I stamped that onto black cardstock and white heat embossed and added the snowman hugs. And I'm also going to take my white gel pen and just draw in some snow falling down in the sky. And once I finished that, I also added some very small self-adhesive pearls up in the sky just for some extra dimension and some unique looking snow falling down. And here's another look at that finished card. I hope you enjoyed today's video and all 4 videos featuring this creative die. If you did, please be sure to give it the thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also connect with Penny Black on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, as well as our website and our blog. And I will link all of those for you down in the YouTube description box below. And if you stay tuned here at the very end of the video, up on screen will be the supply list as promised. Thanks for watching.